Hello my lovely sewing friends, my name is Catherine and welcome to my YouTube channel Serenity Sews. Firstly, I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of you who have subscribed and are taking the time to both watch me but also to listen to what I've got to say about my sewing and my love of dressmaking. I don't take for granted at all the fact that you've taken the trouble to do this, and I really am very grateful and very amazed actually. This is a video I wanted to do for some time, and so I'll explain a little bit more in a minute, but it's all about the trousers. And as you can see from my title, it's a tale of two trousers, and I'm going to examine my favourite pattern and a new pattern to me that is raved around the sewing circles. It's a style art pattern called the Bob Woven Pant, and if you, like me, are one of Andrea Perry's Beyond the Pink Door ladies, then this pattern is almost like the golden chalice of trousers. So I felt that I had to make this pattern to give my honest opinion about it, and to let you know and see some of the examples I've made of my favourite trouser pattern and why. So firstly, I'm just going to stand up and I'm going to show you what I'm wearing, which is the Deer and Doe Melliot shirt. As you can see, sorry, it's in a dark background so you won't get a brilliant view, but this is a gorgeous Lady Mcelroy brushed cotton. In fact, it would make fantastic pyjamas if that was your thing. But it is a lovely fabric, and I found it out actually yesterday because it was so cold, and I thought I'll put it on today, which now the sun's shining and it's a little bit on the warmer side, but anyway, hey ho, I always wear a vest underneath so I can always cool down a bit. Right, over to trousers, making trousers, why people worry about making trousers. And actually it's not just about making your own trousers, it's going along and trying on trousers in shops and thinking, oh, how is it I can't get these to fit me properly. I don't know whether I've said this before, but I am now, I say retired, I am teaching at a university midwifery students, so I'm probably being a bit generous saying I'm retired, but I was a midwife I am a midwife, but I was working clinically for many years in the NHS, and have always made my own clothes, made my family things, and certainly made my daughter clothes, particularly when she was small. But one of the elements that I'm interested in is, of course, why our bodies change. Well, those of you who've been pregnant, who have given birth, and understand about the huge changes that a woman's body goes through in that period of her fertility, will understand how women's bodies are such a magnificent anatomical being, really. And so one of the things I wanted to make sure was that I understood a little bit more about my body. It's never been the way I want it to, and I imagine most of you out there will say the same thing. I'd like it to be this, I'd like it to be that, and we can never quite own the body we want. But you know, I'm 65 now. I'm mature, if not old, as my grandsons tend to call me, and I think I have to be at peace with my body, and I do try, and it's not easy. I understand that we try and squeeze ourselves into whatever bracket the current trends might be, although I have to say I'm not particularly a trend follower. But it's inevitable that we'll see someone or see some garment that we think we could look better in, if only. So what I'd like to share with you today is some of my research around women's bodies and what happens to them when they become older. And I mean older throughout our lifetime, if you like. So we have usually in our adolescence and certainly childhood very little body fat, and that's why we grow and our bodies change, and hormones help to produce more sugar, so that we've got energy to grow and to be able to do the things that we want to. High activity levels mean that we don't carry so much weight, although today population wise it seems that more children are slightly overweight than a few decades ago. So as we have our fertility, if you like, high life between the ages of 17 to 35, I would say, that is when we are at peak in terms of where body fat should be, and in preparation for developing a baby and feeding a baby afterwards. So most of our body fat will be in the thigh area and across our chests, so that it's in readiness really for that little baby to use up all those calories if we choose to breastfeed. And that's exactly what does happen. However, over the age of 40 we enter what we call a declining age of fertility, although some of us have longer fertile periods, but the majority of us over the age of 40 have had our children. So what happens then is our body fat starts to go up, but in a slightly different area. It certainly starts to build up around our middle and around our internal organs. And this was something that I didn't notice so much at the age of 40, but once I got to around about 50, I certainly felt that my body had changed. So if you think that you used to have a nice waist, used to be very shapely, and then all of a sudden, no matter how hard you train or you work at the gym, etc., you're still carrying this little bit of additional weight, or a change in where that weight once was. Well, this is vitally important actually in preparation for our less active life, so that this fat is protecting those internal organs, but also being readily available as we don't now have to be fertile, but become more aware of our heat available to us, but also as we get older, being less active and more sedentary. So the dreaded menopause, which happens any time after 40 usually, can happen earlier, but usually after 40, we lose, or rather we have decreasing levels of a hormone called estrogen. And estrogen is vital in our lifetime, as it helps us have healthy bones, healthy tissue, and also helps to keep us stable in our mood, and gives us the ability to be as flexible, lithe and happy even. So estrogen is a vital facet of a woman's life cycle. So as we get older, estrogen declines, our ovaries start to shut down, and lots of things change, as you all know, those of you that have had a harder exposure to the menopause than others. Our shape changes too. So where we used to think we were nice and straight, I'll just stand up for you a moment. So we were nice and straight, our spine is straight, we become slightly more stooped. Now it is to a degree very subtle to start with, but as over time you will know that we all have a slight stoop, and that can be very difficult sometimes in that our posture, no matter how hard we try to stay upright, naturally when we sit down and we relax, that posture is adapted. Now that's because in the spine we are if you like, losing fluid that cushions those discs so that they become a little bit more closer in contact and actually not as flexible as we once were. So here we are, getting older, stooping, fat around our middle more. Goodness, sounds a bit miserable, doesn't it? But the good news is when you make your own clothes, you can take into account all of those things and make something that fits you. And the other good news is that with most of us as women, carrying that extra weight around here much more means that we have a protective layer there. And that protective layer is brilliant when we are ill, because it helps us to break down the fat in that area to produce an enzyme called cytokine, which is fantastic for fighting infections, but also increasing our immunity to not becoming ill. Are you with me so far? Sorry, this is a bit heavy going, I know, but now, right, I'm on to trousers. So with all that in mind, with the fact that my body has changed, I noticed this about 5-6 years ago, that trousers were increasingly uncomfortable or difficult, certainly woven trousers, and I didn't want to have to wear leggings all the time, because I don't know whether you've noticed, but I like to dress up a bit smart, and you know, I like to be coordinated, I like nice fabrics. I don't want to be in a t-shirt and leggings all the time. I will wear them, there's no doubt about that, but I want to be varied and have as many options to me as possible. So I decided to venture into finding the perfect trouser pattern. I've tried many through the big four, as one always does. I traced countless patterns from Burda, some successful, some not, and lo and behold, I came across a pattern. I can't even remember where I bought it. It's certainly an old pattern now, and this has become what I call my trouser block. and I have to admit I need to do another copy of this because it's wearing thin, it's tissue paper, and if I lose this pattern I'll be devastated. So I'm going to go through first of all the pattern that I am talking about, which is New Look 6419. Looks really kind of non-committal as a trouser pattern, and I have to say I've made the skirt's not one of my favourites, but it's certainly okay. So the description is a under the waist woven trouser, straight leg with cutaway pockets. Now that's quite an important thing, because cutaway pockets mean that you are accommodating any fullness around your hip area here. Okay, so if you cut away down there, you're actually not adding additional bulk, and that to me is really important, and I love that that style of pattern. Now then, in here, if I get out my pattern pieces, which are precious, I'm going to show you the pattern piece for the pocket. And that is how it folds over and is stitched in. It is perfectly big enough for me. I do like a pocket. I won't always put a pocket in garments that I make myself, because they can be detract really from the shape and the style of garment, but in this trouser pattern I do like it, and I always put it in. I think apart from one pattern where I didn't have enough fabric, I think I was making some Bermuda shorts, and I just did a straight Bermuda short, but they are useful, no doubt about that. Pockets are useful. So that's the first thing. The second thing about this pattern is it sits at least 1 inch below the natural waist. Now you might think, oh, I don't know about that, because they'll keep going down. Actually, when you've got a full tummy and you're carrying your weight mostly around the front, the other brilliant thing this pattern has is a couple of pleats either side the centre line, so that allows for that little bit of fullness there. And so I'm not kind of over cautious about showing my tummy in that respect, because the fullness in the pattern allows you just enough, I think, without it pulling too tight. So they're not flat fronted. However, getting back to the waist, the other interesting thing about this, yes, it sits about 1 inch below the natural waist, but the waistband itself is cut in 2 parts and on the bias. Now that is genius, because what that allows is a natural stretch in the fabric. I'll come back to the fabric in a second, but it also fits nicely and shapes against your natural, I suppose, waistline. Other than that, I do tend to prefer curved waistlines and just under the waist. I used to have a 24-inch waist, and I was of the era in the 90s where I wore fit and flare dresses all the time, and my waist was tiny. I used to have to take it in relation to my hips. Now no more that problem, sadly, but my waist is still smaller than my hip area, so I do like to at least try to make the waistband comfortable but also flattering. Right, so another problem that I now have is a flat bottom. I've just said I've changed immensely since my younger days, and what I've noticed is I've lost weight off my bottom, which is strange because I do an awful lot of sitting on it now, but instead of it having that rounded curve, it's now much flatter. So what that can do is mean that trousers hang or pull at the back. I'm going to come in a little while to what you can do about that, but it's really worthwhile sometimes just mocking up a pair of trousers that you quite like the pattern of, just to see where the areas are on you that you want to make modifications. So for me, it's I've got fullness in the tummy area, so full abdomen, and I've got a flatter bottom than I used to. The other challenge is, of course, I'm shorter. I used to be 5'4". I believe I'm 5'1.5" now. Seem to be disappearing, and my thighs are I would say well rounded. I don't have long legs, so it sounds like I don't have a lot going for me really, but that's me and that's my body. So what I want to do is to make the best of what I've got. I found my pattern, I think it works for me, and I've really then tried different fabrics, but also favourite fabrics, and what I've learnt from this particular pattern, it doesn't ask for a woven with stretch. However, anyone who's going to make trousers who's a little bit of an older age, you might want to just consider using a stretch in it. I don't mean, you know, a high degree of stretch, but I'm talking about a suiting that has 2 or 3% stretch in it, a sateen, cotton sateen, again a small amount of stretch in it, denim even. I've got a couple of pair of denim ones to show you here. And what that does is it just gives you the ability to feel comfortable and to make that garment your garment of, if you like, the best fit, the most comfort. Okay, so I better show you what I'm talking about now. So the first pair is a pair I made yesterday, and I'm hoping to try and put a few photos in as well. Now this is a navy suiting. I think I got this from Minerva. It was very inexpensive, probably £7 a metre. As you can see, these are not particularly straight legged. Now the reason for that is I actually took that straight leg and I shaped the leg down, and I did this 2 or 3 times until I was happy that my pattern was the most attractive to the look I wanted. Yeah, a straight down leg is great, and I do make that that style of trouser, but actually for, say, for work or for going out, I prefer this tailored down. Now the other thing I do, and I've learnt this over the years, is, can't remember who told me this, but it might have been my husband actually. He used to be, when he first left school, he was he worked in a very upmarket gentleman's outfitters, and he said on the stay pressed trousers that men had, to give a nice crease at the front, there's a very fine stitch line all the way down the front. You probably won't see that, but it's right as far to the edge as you could possibly get, and you probably see this on the photograph that I put in. And what that does is that, especially if you're short and small, that draws the eye to the line down the leg, and not to the width but to the length. And I more or less do that in every single pair that I make of this kind of trouser. So that's the one I made yesterday. Let me show you these that I made last year. Now these are a cerise pink denim, 2% stretch fabric, goodness knows, can't remember, but anyway, on there you will see a little bit of embroidered stitching, cutaway pocket. I forgot to say is the pattern requires might be 2-inch wide elastic for the waist. It really just supports it, but it helps them to kind of grip you. Now these are straight-ish, as you can see, and they are, I would say, just under my calf, so not exactly ankle length, but certainly nice for spring and summer. I wore those a lot last year actually. Now then, this is a pair I made 5 years ago, and this was some denim fabric that is like a copper. I don't know whether you can see that. I did attempt some lapped stitching down the outside of the leg, again cutaway pocket and elastic supported waistline. Now these definitely come just below the knee. Again, you could probably see my little stitched length line down the front of the leg. I don't know what I'll do when these wear out, because every single year I get them out. You can tell I've not lost weight. Actually, that means I've not gained that much either. But these jeans, whatever you want to call them, it's typical of me. I probably wouldn't have made these in a navy denim, but give me a little bit of bling, you know, copper tones, then I'm all for it. And the last pair I want to show you is some stretch cotton. I think this is, no, it's not cotton sateen, but I have had a cotton sateen. This is the second pair of polka dot ones I've made. The first pair was slightly smaller spots and I couldn't get the same fabric. I love these. I love them with a white top. I tend to wear an awful lot of white tops in the summer. It's kind of a bit Audrey Hepburn, I suppose. God, you know, that I should wish to look like Audrey Hepburn. But these, I'll probably make another pair when these have seen their day. Right, better hurry up because this is already 30 minutes. So, a couple of suggestions really about fitting. Full tummy, you can accommodate that with what's called a full tummy adjustment or full abdomen. If you've got pooling on, if you like, the rounded part of your bottom, I found that I did an adjustment in my pattern, as you can see, which is a small kind of dart, I guess, but that crease actually helped to reduce that pooling. Another way to do that is to do a cross where perhaps if the pooling is slightly higher up, to do a fisheye dart and to do that on the tissue and just check out how that looks for you. Right, I'm now going to talk to you about the bob pants, the kind of gang love this. Now, I wasn't sure, I have to say, because the shape of them is like a cocoon. I think styling is important for. Oh, sorry about that. Just had to take a phone call. Right, so we were talking about the bob pants. These are a loose fitting, cocoon shape, ankle length, seam pocket, elasticated waist, trousers of dreams. So I had some medium weight crepe. I'm going to stand, if I can, on here so you can see the kind of movement this has. Yeah, they do. I'm not going to try and jump up, but they do hang in the way they're supposed to. They are comfortable, I can vouch for that, and they were true to size. I made a size 14 and they fit me perfectly well. I think I might like them in the spring when it's a little bit warm, but not if you like too warm. I think they're a trouser I can put on when I'm in and I'm just kind of taking it easy around the house. I think they're not my favourite, but that's okay. You know, I have found my favourite pattern and I modify that according to what I want to wear. But I do like to try out new patterns, new styles. So I can say that the bob pant do what they say on the packet, and I can understand why some people are absolutely in love with them. I actually will probably try these again in a linen and just see what I feel about those when I start to look at what I want for late spring and going forward. So thumbs up for the bobs, but double thumbs up for my own pattern that has become my, if you know, pattern of dreams. Now we're going to finish in a second, but what I want to do is give you some tips for trousers. My advice to you is, if you're looking around for your ideal trouser pattern, always make up an inexpensive pair to start with and just try to modify it, see what the fit is like, wear them, don't just kind of not bother with them, wear them, because it's how they feel when you're wearing them sometimes that makes a huge difference too. For someone of my age, I would say a lower waistline can be more comfy. Don't get that kind of pulling me in round the waist that can sometimes be uncomfortable. So look for a waistline that fits just under. Flat front is brilliant, but if you've got a little bit of ease for a full tummy, look at a pattern that has small pleats at the front. If not, include them by doing a full tummy adjustment. Remember, you know, pleats are very forgiving and actually enhance the line of the garment. Going back to that, I would say try doing that straight line of stitching right down the center of the leg honestly, it gives such a lovely clean finish and enhances the line. I won't say it makes your legs a lot longer, but it certainly brings the eye to the line rather than to the whole leg. If you've got a flat bottom, look at taking in a tiny pleat across the pattern line in about the area where you want it to be. Make that adjustment and even just tack it up and see how that fits. I think you'll find that you'd be much happier with that. Find a pattern that you love and stick with it. There's nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with trying different patterns, but actually if you can get a pattern that suits you, suits your body shape, has the ability to look different in different fabrics, go for it. Find a fabric with a bit of stretch, a tiny amount. You don't need massive amounts of stretch, but what you do need is a little bit of give, a little bit of ease, you know, a bit like the age I'm at now. I like a little bit of ease, and why not? A couple of books, or rather a couple of resources that might be helpful to you. I bought this. It's a little brochure, actually. I printed it off. You probably can just about read it. This is the Sew Over It trouser guide, and it's a guide to fitting. Bearing in mind this relates to their trousers, but actually it's nicely constructive with useful information about the things that I've spoken about. And then the other Bible that I go to time and time again, although I really haven't mastered the art of tissue fitting, but that's mostly because I sew on my own and I find it difficult sometimes. But the Palmer Pletch complete guide to fitting includes everything, you know, and if it isn't in here, I don't know where you would find it, let's put it that way. So this is a long video, and I just felt it was worthwhile taking the time, taking the trouble to explain what my thoughts were on my favourite trouser pattern, but also comparing it with another pattern company that I use an awful lot too. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I think I'm supposed to say give me a thumbs up if you have. It's lovely to hear your comments, and I will always try and reply to you. And I'm going to put a few links down below and put a few photographs of what I've made, and you'll be able to see those at the end of the video. So until next time, my lovely sewing friends, it's goodbye and take care.